Welcome to 1189, an online Bible commentary. My name is Tyler Marston, and today we're taking a look at Exodus chapter 13. After the last plague in Egypt, God has set the Israelites free from slavery. But God has continued to give out instructions, and He's specifically setting up these ordinances. These are for the dual purpose to, 1, never let the Israelites forget what God has done for them, and 2, to remind them of God's sovereignty over every part of their lives. This in turn leads to covenant faithfulness and obedience, where God will deliver and save the people that obediently trust in Him. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Sanctify to me every firstborn, the first offspring of every womb among the sons of Israel, both of man and beast. It belongs to me." Because the final plague in Egypt was the death of the firstborn, God here sets up a special consecration ordinance for the firstborn sons of Israel. Because if it wasn't through God sending rescue through the Passover lamb, those firstborn sons in Israel would have died in the plague too. And specifically in this culture, the firstborn represented the continuation of the family line. God claiming ownership of the firstborn represented God's sovereignty over all people, all possessions, and all inheritances, while it also symbolized a family's total commitment to God. Moses said to the people, "Remember this day in which you went out of Egypt, from the house of slavery. For by a powerful hand the Lord brought you out of this place, and nothing leavened shall be eaten. On this day in the month of Abib, you are about to go forth. It shall be when the Lord brings you to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, which He swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall observe this rite in this month." Moses, through God's command, declares that this is going to be an annual celebration to remember this event. It'll be a holiday in future generations to look back on this moment as Israel's defining history. And it should help the future generations when they're dealing with various wars in the Promised Land. They can remember, hey, God saved our ancestors back from slavery in Egypt. And remember that this all started when a Pharaoh came to power that had forgotten Joseph. The Israelites can't afford to forget these moments and end up committing atrocities like Pharaoh. "For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten throughout the 7 days, and nothing leavened shall be seen among you, nor shall any leaven be seen among you in all your borders." Part of these Passover ordinances include the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Jews were instructed to take a week and eat bread with no yeast in it to remember this time in history. The Israelites were instructed not to leaven their bread to escape slavery as quickly as possible. They didn't have time to sit around and wait for their bread to proof. And so future generations will remember God's provision and deliverance when they take this week to celebrate the Feast of the Unleavened Bread. "You shall tell your son on that day, saying, 'It is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. And it shall serve as a sign to you on your hand and as a reminder on your forehead, that the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with a powerful hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. Therefore you shall keep this ordinance at its appointed time from year to year.'" The Israelites are told to write these things down and tie them to their arms and to their foreheads to be an ever-present reminder. But notice that the end goal is not to tie the law to your arm or forehead and that be good in and of itself. The end goal is that the words of God might come out of your mouth. In other words, these ordinances are specifically designed to transform people into the image of God. People who think like Him and love like Him and talk like Him. "Now when the Lord brings you to the land of the Canaanite, as He swore to you and to your fathers, and gives it to you, you shall devote to the Lord the first offspring of every womb, and the first offspring of every beast that you own. The males belong to the Lord. But every first offspring of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. But if you do not redeem it, then you shall break its neck. And every firstborn of man among your sons you shall redeem." Moses again tells the people of the promised land to come. And he tells the people not to forget this consecration of the firstborn in the good times that are coming. They mark this consecration by redeeming their sons from God, buying them back, right? Giving God an offering in their son's place. And this acknowledges that God is in complete control of their lives and of the lives of their family line. Now, all of this is kind of what's at play in the story of 1 Samuel 1, where Hannah has her prayers answered to have a child, and she gives Samuel up to be raised in the temple. Hannah doesn't just give an offering that's equivalent to Samuel's life. She doesn't redeem him. She gives him away to God. Now, in the case of livestock, if the people don't give an offering for the firstborn offspring of those animals, God instructs them to kill them. That's how serious God is about them remembering God's complete sovereignty over their assets and their possessions and their families. And it shall be when your son asks you in time to come, saying, "What is this?" Then you shall say to him, "With a powerful hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt, from the house of slavery. It came about when Pharaoh was stubborn about letting us go, that the Lord killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord the males, the first offspring of every womb, but every firstborn of my sons I redeem. So it shall serve as a sign on your hand, and as phylacteries on your forehead, for with a powerful hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt." Moses again tells the people that this ordinance is for the benefit of future generations. Israel might, and we know ultimately that they will, forget what God has done and end up acting like Pharaoh did. And these offerings to God for the firstborn, these phylacteries that you wear on your forehead and on your arm, these are meant to be reminders of what God has done, so that should never happen. When they perform these rituals, they should remember God's sovereignty and God's covenant faithfulness. Now, when Pharaoh had let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, even though it was near. For God said, "The people might change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt." Hence, God led the people around by the way of the wilderness to the Red Sea, and the sons of Israel went up in martial array from the land of Egypt. God intentionally leads the people away from the shortest path to the promised land, because doing so would require them to pass through the war-torn areas of surrounding cultures. This leads them all the way to the Red Sea, or translated literally, the Sea of Reeds. Now, this causes some scholarly debate on whether the body of water we currently today call the Red Sea is the Red Sea that the Israelites crossed. But the point is, the people are instructed to trust God's plan by not taking the shortest path. Trust God that even though what they're doing doesn't make sense, He's still in control. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, "God will surely take care of you, and you shall carry my bones from here with you." We also hear explicit confirmation that Moses brought the bones of Joseph with him on the journey back to Canaan. This was mandated in Genesis 50, right before Joseph died. In the same way that Joseph returned to Canaan to bury his father Jacob there, Joseph commanded his descendants to do the same with his body. Through Moses, this comes true, and it serves again to reinforce those themes of generational remembrance and faithfulness. Then they set out from Sukkoth and camped in Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord was going before them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them on the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, that they may travel by day and by night. He did not take away the pillar of cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night, from before the people. Finally, God Himself is the one leading the people by a pillar of cloud and fire by day and night, respectively. Now, this calls back to Exodus 3, when God appeared as the fire of the burning bush to Moses. We remember that that fire represented His holiness and His purity. This should also remind us of Genesis 1, where God sovereignly ordered over day and night. And finally, it looks ahead to Exodus 19, where this cloud and fire is going to combine into God's full holy presence that meets with Moses on Mount Sinai. But for right now, God is the one leading the people, and the people are obediently following. Literally played out by them following the pillars of cloud and fire. Now, following God's instructions should set them up to remember what God has done for them in the future. And it should set up their descendants to remember this too. God is sovereign over every part of their lives and of ours today too, no matter what the surrounding culture says. And because of that, we should obediently follow Him, no matter whether it makes sense or not. When we have faith in Him, we follow Him, we obey His instructions, things turn out for our good. because that's the kind of God He is. Thanks for watching 1189. I hope you have a good day, and God bless.